Hello, everyone. Hello, my beautiful souls, and welcome to another episode of the Empowered Souls podcast. Today, this episode is going to be about reclaiming your dating confidence. I know I recorded a few episodes on the topic of relationships, but not on the particular topic of finding love, how to be ready to find love again, and how to go through that finding love process, the dating process, which in this day and age can be a bit challenging. For that, I have a very special guest with us today. Very special because not only because she's a very special woman, but very special because she is the first guest ever that I'm hosting in the Empowered Souls podcast. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Monica Douglas. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Veronica.
So let me tell you a bit more about Monica. She's a very knowledgeable and she has so much wisdom to share with us today. So Monica is a certified love and relationship coach, and she helps courageous professionals to find fulfilling love after a breakup, separation, and divorce. So working with Monica, they heal heartbreak and make love a priority so they can date delightfully. And this is a concept she's going to talk us through, delightful dating. And they create a loving relationship with a partner who matches them. Monica works with her clients using a variety of modalities, but at the core is love and relationship coaching in groups, one-on-one, delightful dating masterclasses. I can't wait to hear more about this. And with a rich career history, Monica is a noted speaker, best-selling author, transformational leader. She has more than 25 years of professional and personal development experience. Her values are joy, love, integrity, alignment, collaboration, and impact. And employing coaching, mentoring, and spiritual practices like dance and breath work, she fosters embodied transformation. Her personal passions are barefoot walking, yoga, singing, dancing, goat whispering, and eating raw chocolate. Love to hear about that. So Monica, before we get started into all the wisdom that you are here to share with us today, tell us a bit more about your story. I know that a lot of people, a lot of our listeners that are looking for love, might not have a lot of hope, especially if they've been through a painful breakup, especially a long-term relationship. So tell us a bit more about your story about finding love.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I want to tell you about the moment where I realized, okay, actually, I've come through and I found my beloved, because I think it's really important. I came out of a 27-year relationship, and at that point, I didn't think I was ever going to have love again. And I met my beloved. I met my beloved on Tinder. I found
Blessed
joyful. Bless Tinder. Thank you, God. Thank you, Tinder. Um, and I was actually doing my work because I had gone deep through my breakup and my conscious uncoupling with my former husband. I did deep soul work where I looked at who was I in the relationship, what was the things that really worked, what were the things that didn't, that meant that we needed to complete our relationship. And I did that work, and it really brought me into the realm of deep love and relationship coaching, because up until that point in those 27 years we had lots of mini divorces. Let's be clear, the reason why we lasted that long was because we grew and we looked at our relationship and we were like, oh, we're different people now. Can we still commit to each other? So we had a little mini divorce and recommitted, and then went some few more years longer, and then evolved again, and then had come to a point where we had to recommit and look at what we were doing, and then until it was a point where we couldn't do that anymore. And then it brought us to the point where we needed to consciously uncouple, and I needed to do my inner work so that I could learn to love again. And I'd never really dated because I'd been with my former husband from like 17, 18. So I went on a journey a journey of discovering what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted, what I didn't want, and then ended up doing research for what became my delightful dating magnetic profile masterclass. I came to Barbados and I was like, okay, the dating that I'd done the previous couple of years, I'd used Match or eHarmony and things where it was like, okay, we want to have a serious relationship. We want somebody who's in the game. And and as a result, um I talked to people. I was like, okay, what do you want? And they were like, well, everybody in Barbados, they use Tinder. And I was like, no. So they were like, yeah, nobody uses any of the other things. So I was like, okay. And within 48 hours of putting my Tinder profile up, I was on a breakfast date with my now beloved.
Wow.
And I was like, actually, I've learned quite a lot in those dating years.
I bet, I
And
bet.
yeah, and it's really important for me to pay this forward, which is why I come on things like this and talk about my story. So a journey of coming out of a 27-year relationship, of going deep into who do I need to be to have the love that I want, and then using that which I know and learned in order to manifest it. That's my
Beautiful.
story.
That's wonderful. I want to touch on many different things. I'm definitely going back. I want to hear more about the delightful dating idea. But the first thing I want to touch on is you mentioned I did the soul work, I did the inner work, and you mentioned the person I need to be in a relationship. And I think that is so important that when it comes to being in a relationship, first we need to do the inner work, right? Because sometimes what happens is that you follow a pattern and you have a relationship and you blame our partner, right? And he does this and he behaves and he says and all this thing, and then you think that the next one is going to be much better, but then suddenly you find yourself in the same pattern, right? And you're like, oh, so how come this partner and the one after I feel exactly the same way? It's just that this guy has slightly different color hair, maybe even similar, maybe he's wearing different clothes, but the outcome or the pattern is the same. And yeah, doing that inner work is so important. So tell us a bit more about how that inner work or that soul work went for you.
Yeah. So for me, it was the core of the process, like really taking ownership for what is my part in this. In the work that I'm trained in conscious uncoupling, we talk about our 3%, right? It's usually more than three, but at least we can start with our 3%, right? Or we go the other way. Sometimes we take on full responsibility. There's also a piece to be learned about who we're interacting with and how we interact with others. But the place of empowerment, which is what your podcast is about, right?
Yeah.
The place of empowerment is who am I and what can I do differently this time? What are my, we call them in our work, what are my source fractures? What are the places where actually the heartbreak, it enables us to see the places where these dysfunctional patterns get in. So is it that I believe that I'm not worthy of love, so I then accept unacceptable behavior, and I accept that right from the beginning of a relationship, because actually, essentially, I don't believe that I'm worthy of it, and I don't have a pattern for what it would be for me to say yes when somebody comes into my life who actually wants to treat me well.
Yeah.
My own work, it's very much about my needs don't matter, right? Everybody else's needs are more important than other people, than mine. So I act in the world towards people as though their needs are more important than mine. And that sometimes means that I don't get my needs met because I'm not articulating them. I don't say what I want. I don't own what I want. I don't ask for what I want. And then I'm resentful of the other person because they've not given it me. Hold on a minute. Something needs to change. So this is how the inner work unfolds. It's how we tap into, we find emotional freedom because it's hard, breakups are hard, separations are hard, um, estrangements in existing relationships are hard. They're difficult places for us to navigate. But when we take the first step of really listening to what we're feeling what we're feeling, and then learning how to articulate what we need and giving ourselves what we need, because if we can't give ourselves what we need, how can we expect anybody else to? How can we? So this is what it's about, and it's about then allowing ourselves to see what our patterns are, uncovering them. It's a bit of excavation work.
Yeah.
And then learning, right, what new skills and capacities do I need to bring do I need to learn? Do I need to evolve so that I can be somebody who can then open up to a greater vision of what love could be like for me? And I can then, when I'm meeting people, when I'm dating people, I can see, does this fit with my idea of what a relationship is now versus what a relationship was before, and what was acceptable to me then, but is unacceptable to me now.
Yeah. And there's so much growth. I can hear so much growth in there. And I have to say that anyone doing this level of inner work, the inner work that we encourage our clients to do, right? That deep inner work, it takes courage. It takes courage. And I loved the way you were talking about, just giving space to those parts of ourselves, the part of our soul, right? Always with compassion and always with love. No judgment, just with compassion and love. But yeah, that's definitely a journey. And for the brave ones, it takes courage. So anyone, in the process of this self-discovery, healing, inner work journey, well done, wherever you're at. Because I know a lot of people, and I've experienced it, and I still think, oh my God, I have so many things that I could still improve and work on, and deeper layers, right? But give yourself credit for what you've done, so everyone who's in this process, because it takes courage. So Monica, I would like to ask you, for anyone who is actively looking for love, and in this day and age, it can be challenging. It's already tricky to to just be with yourself, right? With everything we bring, and then when you share it with someone, relationships. I believe the relationships are a beautiful space, and a great catalyst for healing, because your partner can mirror what you need to heal. We might get triggered in relationships. They can, it's a wonderful place for growing, for learning, but it can be tricky. It can be to say the least. So what advice would you have for people who are looking for love, actively looking for love, and maybe not having much hope because they've had painful breakups before, or they just don't know how to date, or the whole Tinder apps and all these things. So what advice would you have for people looking for love right now?
Okay, so the first thing I would say is really allow yourself to see where you are in the relationship cycle. So let's be honest about whether we still are attached to any former loves. Let us be honest about whether we are feeling like we need support, because in the end, we don't have to do this alone. This is why I started what I do, is like when you're in a group of other people who are also in the same situation, you're like, oh, it's not just me.
Yeah.
Oh. So,
Yeah.
come on something that inspires you. that makes you feel like this is a positive thing, that it's easy, that it can be light, it can be joyful. Um, so it takes the pressure off. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
people get like, oh, locked in, I've got to do this. Maybe there's a biological kicking, ticking, or maybe there's some other pressure from family, and maybe all your friends are partnered. Come into a space where it's okay to be single, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay to be single, and that actually what we're going to do is start to feel inspired about loving on you, right? And
Mm.
getting clear about what it is you actually want, right? Because as I said, you have to learn how to give yourself what you want before you can start expecting it from someone
Mm.
else, right? You're more likely to be able to accept it from someone else if you're able to give it to you.
Mm.
So, I mean, this is what, for me, delightful dating is all about. It's like
Mm.
being supported, being in community, um, looking at, yes, some of the stuff that we don't particularly want to look at, but knowing that it's going to set us free. So we know that that's there. You're held while you're doing that, but you're also being inspired and making a commitment to taking time for you, to going on dates for yourself, to um, creating a profile and a vision of the relationship you want in the future, because sometimes we can get locked in how it is in the past. So one of the most joyful things that we do is create a vision for how relationships going to be, to actually feel into. One of my favorite practices is when I take people into a space where they're feeling into what it feels like to have their beloved with them. Oh, it's
Mm.
just so gorgeous and juicy and happy, because
Yeah.
the body relaxes. You feel like, okay, this is possible for me. It's almost like you've created an energetic space for someone to come in. Um, so that would be my go-to. Find a community that's supportive so that you feel it's okay for you to be single. You start to look for ways in which you fill up your cup, or you start to give yourself what you need,
Mm.
and then you create a vision of a compelling future for you and take steps to enable that to happen. Again, often with support is great because it just encourages you to keep going. And it means that when you start the process of dating, if your first attempts are a little bit lukewarm, you've still got someone who's going, it's okay, keep going. Let's
Yep.
go. Keep going. Keep open. Keep the heart open. It's teaching you to remember what it is you want and not be put off by what it is you don't.
That is beautiful. And I think you're spot on when you said, be in a place where it is okay to be single. Because relationships, in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, well, in all forms of relationship, but in a romantic relationship in particular, you can create that alchemy with where the sum of the parts it's much bigger, right? But for that, you need to come from a place of feeling whole, right? Not
Yeah.
needing the other part, or the other person needing something from you. Whereas if you come from a space of, I am okay to be single, I don't need a partner to fulfill my needs, I am single, I'm perfectly fine, but I want that partnership, I want that sacred union, and then it's like, poof, that's where magic can happen in a
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
relationship. But when we come from a place of need, or wanting someone to save us, or to
Yeah.
fulfill our needs, we're in for disaster. I've been there myself.
Yeah,
Right, so
absolutely. Because we're grasping. We're
yeah.
grasping. There's an energy of desperation. Actually, I love what you said. We're whole.
Mm.
And it's for us to remember our wholeness,
Mm.
like literally remember our wholeness, remember all the parts that we've given away. Let us
Yeah.
reclaim them.
Yeah.
Let us remember who we are, our fullness, our wholeness, our completeness, so that when we come to relationship with another, that we're creating something that, as you say, greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And community you mentioned as well, which I think it's really important, because when you're on your own, it can be, and this happens regardless of the topic they're working on with my clients. As soon as I say, you know, this happens to a lot of many of my other clients, like, oh, I'm not the only one. You know, so yeah, having that community of support, not judgmental, critical community, but supportive,
No.
encouraging, empowering, you know. So so for that, just letting the audience know that Monica will share all her social media links, you know, if you want to hang out with her and her community, you know, and be part of this tribe. Are there any mistakes in particular that you see people making, or the clients you work with making when they start dating or when they want to find love again?
Yeah, I think people have. So I talked about vision, but the vision is how you want to feel. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is people have this list of criteria that people
Ah,
need to meet, right? It's a list of criteria, and it goes down from looks to job to car, all this stuff, right? That actually does not mean that
mm,
you're going to have a successful relationship with someone. They might have all of the external trappings, but essentially, if the heart isn't in connection and loving you, it's it's not going to bring you what you want. And um, I think our modern way of living has encouraged that. It's not about the list.
mm.
And I tell a story when I do my magnetic dating profile masterclass, right? I talk about how initially I was ambivalent towards my now beloved, right? And the reason why I was ambivalent was because there was a little part of me that had made a curious declaration that I was never going to date a man that was shorter than me, right?
Big
Now,
statement. Never gonna happen.
so I say this because people think, oh, Monica can't be that shallow, but actually, actually, there was a part of me that made that statement because
Yeah.
I'm a big woman. That's I and because um it was a thing. It was a thing on a list that I made in a moment. And I worked with my mentor around that. And he was like, what's this ambivalence about? And is this actually a non-negotiable? Right. And it was like, well, no, not really. And it's like, does that really make any difference to the quality of your relationship? No, not really. Could you let it go? Absolutely. Could you let
Mm,
it go right now? Yeah. And the ambivalence disappeared.
mm,
And I opened my heart to receive the love of a really, really, really beautiful man. But and I could have blocked that connection because of this thing that really didn't matter. And I tell the story, and my beloved laughs too, right? He's like, tell the story though. He said, tell the story, it's all fun.
it's all over the
But
internet now. He doesn't have to worry about anything.
so he's fine. He knows I'm perfectly happy. Um, but it's how these little things that you said, what's the mistake? The mistake is we put these criteria
Mm,
out that block the things that are actually the more important, like the fact that somebody is caring, is loving, is supportive, is showing up for you consistently, and you're glamored by these other criteria
mm.
that in the end don't mean anything when you have a challenge in the relationship.
Yeah.
So what's one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they have this ridiculous criteria, and also they're not looking. We're not looking. I'm going to own it. We're not looking at who is we're showing up as in the
Mm,
relationship, and how we need to really be clear on when things aren't right for us, but also to honor when things are right for us. Because one of the things that many of us do, and especially in long-term relationships as well, have done, is take people for granted.
yeah.
And this can also happen as we go through in our formative stages of bonding. Like I call it blissful bonding. So you're delightful dating, you meet somebody, it's all joyful, all gorgeous. We've got our rose tinted glasses on for at least 6 months, maybe longer. And we're blissfully bonding away, but we're kind of pretending to be somebody that we're not. It's another mistake, right?
Right.
Please
Yeah.
do not pretend to be somebody that you're not, right? In order to hold this thing together, because it's going to come back and bite you on the bottom.
Yeah.
Be who you are and encourage the other person to be who they are, knowing that in the first 6 months we can hold it together. But after that, the cracks start showing. And then, it's better to be more you.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, absolutely. And I think obviously, because if you have to pretend to be someone you're not for someone to like you, then they don't like you. They're liking other person. Then when you're real
They like
you
they like
comes
the
out,
idea of you.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
then they're gonna be like, oh, but that's not the person I started dating. So
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. And I really love what you said about the feelings, the emotion, right? So not so much the ticking the boxes, right, about our perfect prince and the perfect person, but
Yeah.
how do I feel in this place with this person,
With
those
this being, right?
yeah,
This
yeah,
soul. Yeah, this
yeah,
being that's here.
yeah.
Um, yeah. And it's also important to not ignore the parts of us that are telling us when something's not quite right.
Mm.
Okay, so just ask the inconvenient question. Because it's better if you ask the inconvenient question early rather than
Yeah,
later, right?
yeah, it'll save you some disappointments, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Monica, tell us a bit more about the concept of delightful dating. That sounds really good, so tell us about it.
Yeah. So delightful dating is my process that I've created and brought together from my experience and my experience of working with my clients of how to freely and joyfully meet your match. And the the reason why this came about is because I just was continually saddened by hearing stories from people about their heartbreak, about their loneliness, and about their terrible dating experiences. And I was like, no, 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 it can't. It doesn't have
We
to
need to
be like
fix
that.
this. Like, there's nothing. We need to do something about this mess. Where do we even
We need
start?
to, yeah, we need to do something about this because I think, there's a lot of people consuming content around dating, and it's like what to do when he does this, what to do when she does that.
Yeah.
And it's like, quite frankly, it's confusing and it's a lot of it's ridiculous
Mm,
because what we're doing is we're trying to operate from a manual of one size fits all. And it can't work because we're all individual, we're all
yeah.
different. The way that we date delightfully is when we get clear about who we are, what we how we want to feel, how we want to be in relationship, and then we work in a way that is open and where we can listen to ourselves, we can hear that inner guidance, we can feel, my thing is instinct, intuition, insight, inspiration,
Mm,
right?
mm,
So we are allowing ourselves to have a whole body experience in the dating journey. We're not just going off our cognitive faculty, we're not just
mm,
going off our heart, we're not just going off our gut feeling or the whispers of the soul, we're including it all.
right.
And we're doing that in a way that is joyful, is freeing, and that is delightful, essentially. So when we get disappointed, we bring the disappointment
Mm,
to the table and we go, oh my goodness, what, what I can do with this, right? What's the learning? What's the thing that I can do? So it becomes, uh, yeah, lighter, less burdensome. And we do it in connection, we do it in community, and we allow
mm,
ourselves to be held through what can be the most beautiful stage of building a relationship.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I'm sure a lot of people are like, I want that. So how is that process? Guide us through that process a little bit. But how do you go from I can't be bothered today, right now. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know if there's someone out there for me to, oh, I'm delightfully dating. What does that process look like?
Okay, so what we do is we first get clear on what our intentions are. We clarify our dating goals. Okay, am I ready to date? Right, and I've got a quiz that actually says, okay, am I ready to date? So um that also makes you think, okay, maybe there's this little bit of thing I need to do first, right? Sometimes some people. So my um relationship cycle, Wild Heart Wisdom relationship cycle, right? So you could be a state of courageous closure where you need to close the old door. You need some sort of ritual, some sort of ceremony, some sort of peace to be made with the past so that you're free to move forward. You might be in relationship recovery where you're just, again, it's like the next stage of peace. You've closed. Now it's like, okay, is there any repair work that needs to be done to heal my heart so I feel open and I feel that I can trust myself in order to trust others. Then we can get to the point where we're okay. Actually, I'm love seeking. I'm love longing. This is real. I'm starting to actually want it. Prior to that, there's usually the fears and the other things are getting in the way of us actually really wanting to be in relationship anyway. So even if we start dating around that time, we will self-sabotage and block anybody that's potential. So love longing or love seeking stage is where I'm open, don't know what to do yet, but okay, it'd be quite nice. And then we get to delightful dating. And in delightful dating, we're ready to take action, right? So this is where somebody will go, all right, I do want to date and I'm ready. And they'll go, Monica, I think I want to come on the Delightful Dating Masterclass. I want to look at what would it look like if I were to put a profile together, even if I've no intention of going online, because the active process of looking at dating and who I am and how I'm presenting myself to the world and what I want opens us up. Whether we're online or offline, it doesn't matter. So that's the where we get to the point of intentions. We get to the point of looking at whether we want to date online or offline. And then we create our magnetic dating profile, right? Then we really look at our heart space and how we radiate and how we embody the love that we want to have. And within that, the next stage is looking at how we do that safely, how we protect our heart and stay open. So we're doing dating in a safe way. Because one of the things that we can do if we've not been in this arena is be quite naive. And I don't want anyone to be naive about it. So delightful dating, yes, but with our eyes open. One of the stats that I use is that on online dating, it's generally about 60 to 70% of the people that are actually available, and 30 to 40% are in relationships already.
Really?
Or yeah.
Wow, that's
So
shocking.
yeah, and you know what? No judgment if you're in a position where you're being open about and you're happy to be in a non-monogamous relationship. That's your thing, right? But be conscious if you do want to be in a position with somebody who is genuinely available for a long-term relationship or a relationship with you, just be clear, be wise, and put things in place. So part of my process is helping people to feel safe and remain in that space of openness, yet um, soft and aware. Aware. And then we start the process of having some joyful exchanges, whether that's online or offline, and learn how to have delightful conversations and joyful exchanges. So that might be you're exchanging on the apps. It might be that you go out to a speed dating event. It might be that you go to an art class, and that you're going to the art class or the gallery with the openness that you want to meet new people. Or you're talking to your friends about saying that you're open to dating, right? Because sometimes that's how it happens. They go, "Oh, you're ready." I have a friend that I've wanted to introduce you to for ages, but I thought you were in the lock off mode.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that. And then we start having memorable and secure first dates. We're clear about what feels right for us, when's the time when we're comfortable in exploring intimacy with somebody. And then the last phase of the delightful dating process is really to cultivate and trust our heart wisdom and develop our relationship. Embrace the connections, learn to talk about how you give and receive love, listen to the other, and form this new relationship in the space of what I call wild heart wisdom.
That sounds absolutely incredible. Actually, I was making some notes of questions I want to ask and topics I want to touch on. The first thing that came to mind was, wow, it's so important to do the preparation work before you can actually start dating, right? Because if you're still attached to a previous relationship, you mentioned about closure and doing some ceremony, ritual, like some really like work around detaching yourself from past relationships, repairing the heart, right? Because we might be accumulating heartbreaks or pain or disappointment from sometimes from a lifetime, really.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's so important that that work happens first. So how would someone know that they are in a good position, in a safe place to start actively dating?
Yeah. So I would say take my quiz, because that's what that's all about.
Ah,
All right. It's all about, like, it's particularly the first four stages of the cycle. So it's asking questions about where you are, how you're feeling, what feels good for you, what doesn't feel good for you. So you get a sense of whether there's something to be done or not, or whether you're ready to, like, yeah, I'm ready to get out there. And if we're honest, we know.
right. That part of ourselves
Yeah.
that we ignore because most of the
If we're
time knows.
i- i- if we're honest, we know, right? When there's
Right.
something. And you said something very important at the beginning of our conversation, Veronica, about the repeating pattern.
Mm,
So when you see there's a repeating pattern, know that there is something that needs to
that
be
needs to
done,
be done. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That's a great
And
indication. Yeah.
yeah, and know that this is the place of empowerment when you choose to look at what needs to be done so that you can have a different experience.
Mm.
It's in your hands, right? And I
Mhm.
think this is why I love the concept of your podcast, this empowering souls, right? This is what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're using romantic relationship as the way in, but this impacts on all of our relationships.
Yeah.
When you see you have a pattern, like I said about one of the patterns that I had, which was my needs don't matter, right? That didn't just play itself out in my romantic relationship,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That played itself out in all of the relationships, in the work that I was doing, all of it, all of it, all of it. And once I saw it and I made a repair, an amends to myself, and said to my younger self where that was first formed,
Mm.
I'm not going to do that to you ever again,
Mm. Yeah.
right? because your needs do matter, actually.
Yeah.
And when you have your needs met, you're much more able to give to other people, Monica.
Yeah.
When that shift happened, everything changed. And
Yeah.
how I showed up for other people. Other people's needs matter, but my needs matter too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to put my first attention on having those needs met so that I can then serve people from a place of overflow.
Yeah. I love that because it's not obvious at all when we are stuck in a pattern. It's not obvious where that might be coming from. And I remember I'm now married in a beautiful marriage and in a wonderful relationship, but my relationships didn't used to be like that. And at the beginning there was a lot of drama. So my parents got divorced when I was very young, very traumatic divorce with lots of arguments. So for me, the theme of my relationships was love hurts, and I kind of had that script already. I was a teenager, and I was seeing how my most likely outcome would be to get married very young, like my mom did, and then get divorced soon after, and then I will have to find love again, but always struggling. And that was kind of like, like that conditioning. But when I was caught in those relationships, repeating the same pattern again and again of conflict and not being seen, and the person not being committed, it took me a long time to figure out, that's what little me decided that love was about. And that's what I was recreating. And you mentioned something really interesting about, I think you said blocking potential, how sometimes we block potential, like, and we are not attracted to men who actually might be really good for us. And I remember that being my case, like, yeah, I wasn't attracted to the good guy, to the one who was going to treat me well. It didn't confirm my script.
Exactly.
So yeah, I
we
think
like to be right, Veronica.
Yeah.
The truth is, we like to be right? And if we have a story that love hurts, and I'll come back to the own pattern, is like, I'll never have my needs met. If somebody comes into your life that is presenting love in a way that doesn't hurt and that wants to meet your needs, you're going to say no to it.
Yeah.
You're going to say no to it because it doesn't fit your script.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit the vision. So this is why creating a new vision is absolutely critical.
Right.
And also honoring the old one and laying it to rest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Always with love and compassion, because our script, I mean, the decisions we made at an early age, we made those decisions with the best resources we had, and just, with the best intention, and just trying to survive. So no judgment, just with love and compassion. But just is this script the one I want to carry? When I wrote down that script, I was like, oh no, I don't want to be in this movie. Like how this movie ends. This is not the script I want for me. So yeah, vision. Absolutely. Very, very, very important. Yeah. There is another thing you mentioned about dating, about being in a safe space before someone decides to go out. And and by the way, if someone is asking a question in what is that quiz about, I'm really interested and I want to take that quiz. We're going to share the details at the end of the episode, and the links will be in the show notes. But I found it very interesting. And you said, I don't think careful was the word you used, but like, let's
aware,
that not everyone might come with honest and or the best intentions. So there needs to be that awareness. And I think that's why it's very important that there's someone does the inner work first before we can put ourselves, and expose ourselves to dating, or to be open to a relationship. And the title of this episode is reclaiming your dating confidence, right? So building that confidence to make sure that if for whatever reason you come across someone that didn't have the best intentions at heart, it doesn't cause a big breakdown, or right, I'm never gonna date again. So what advice would you have about that to help people be confident and just the practicalities of navigating those potential scenarios that someone might come across when actively dating?
So I think awareness is key. Awareness and right action, right? Somebody once asked, answered a question. We were talking about protection, right? And it was in a different context, but the answer is still the same. Like, it's not protection that you need, it's awareness and discrimination and right action. And discrimination means to actually see, right, in this context, right? And to go, oh, is what I see is what I see actually what is? I talked about the rose-tinted glasses. Am I looking through rose-tinted glasses here? And when we're aware, when we are listening, as I said, to our body, heart, mind, and soul, the instinct, the intuition, the insight, and the inspiration, then we will get if there's something that's off, right? Now, the something that's off might be about the other person, it might be about ourselves, but what we do is we investigate it and we act accordingly, right? We learn to sharpen our skills around this, and many of us haven't learned those, right? We are naive and we put ourselves into vulnerable situations that we don't need to be in. Right? So what we do in delightful dating to make sure that our dating is delightful, to make sure that it's joyful, is we put things in place so that we make sure that we're connecting in a way that feels good for us. Something feels off, we step back, we ask a question, we make sure that we meet in a scenario that we like to be in, that means that we feel comfortable, right? We are sometimes a little bit, we might be a little bit inconvenient to see how somebody responds to when we make an inconvenient request, right? Because it's good to know. Can somebody cope with that? And if we are disappointed, if something happens, we have a process for bringing us out of the disappointment, right? So that we don't stay in it, we don't sit in it, and it doesn't become the definer of the rest of our lives. Because this is what I find with many people, is that they're at the point where they resign. They're just like, oh, can't do it anymore. I'm not doing it. No. Right. And it's a shame, because actually I believe that we thrive when we are in happy, compatible relationships.
Absolutely. No, it makes total sense. And I think going back to what you mentioned about community at the beginning is so important, to have that support, that community, that guidance, because I think putting yourself out there, whether that's opening or setting up a profile in an app, or just going to an activity or to whatever it is with the intention of being open, it takes courage to do that, because you're going to get exposed, and it takes courage to do it. And there's nothing worse than having taken that step, and that brave step, and then someone messing up with you, or one situation that that you don't know how to handle, and then go back to the same, oh, I'm not doing it again, this is not for me.
So what we need to know is that relapse, disappointment, things that happen, us showing up in old ways, part of the process. Right?
Absolutely.
We're not going to do it perfectly, and that's okay. And that's part of the reason for taking this delightful stance, is that we're going to actually be lighter around this than some people are, because it can feel heavy, it can feel daunting, all these things. But it's our choice about how we approach this, right?
Yeah.
And we're likely to have a more enjoyable experience if we hold this lightly,
Yeah.
right? If we use it as an opportunity for us to really start loving on ourselves and the people that are in our lives, it's going to be a win, right?
Yeah.
I've got people who are like, I did some work with one of my clients, and she's like, I think the thing that I really got out of this was I am so self-accepting and loving of me.
Mhm.
I haven't, but this is a woman, she's
Yeah.
48, right? She's she's been giving herself a hard time for a long time.
Mm.
And through doing the work, she's like, oh, actually, mm, I'm I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm actually really,
Love
I'm
that.
actually a lovely soul, a beautiful woman, and I deserve to be happy, and I'm deserving of love.
Mm.
And she came she came on a message with me just last week, this one person that I'm thinking of, and she's like, I met somebody gorgeous. We're having the most wonderful time. There's no way I would have accepted him before we did
Right.
our thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Monica, he adores me and
Mm.
I adore him.
Oh,
And she hasn't been dating for years,
yeah.
years. And I'm just, so the first piece was her going, you know what, Mon? I'm so self-accepting and loving of
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
I think I'm ready now.
Yeah.
And then as soon as she did that, right, that was about a month and a half ago. Just a week ago, she's been on the message with me. I met someone. And this is the point, because she's in this place where she's like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. That is the magic, that when that shift happens is when magic can happen. And when you make that
Yeah.
shift and it's like, we talked about the concept of being whole, of accepting yourself, being okay with being single. When you make that shift is when suddenly, oh, the right person appears. Or maybe the right person
Yeah.
was always there, but now you see through different
Now,
eyes, through different beliefs,
yeah.
through a different state of being. And then you
Yeah.
see that person who
Yeah.
was always there. Or now you notice those
Yeah.
people around you. Yeah, that's amazing. That I love when that shift and when it
Exactly.
clicks, right? It's like, oh, something has changed. It's a really
it, it's really wonderful because you can see them and they can see you.
yeah.
Because perhaps before, when you were going around going, nobody loves me,
Mm.
all bleeps are bleeps, whatever it is, right? Um, they're not going to see you. They're not going to feel your
Yeah.
energy because you've already cut it off. Already cut it off.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is amazing. There is one more thing I would like to touch on that you said that I found very interesting, which I can't remember exactly, but it was something about the mind, heart, intuition connection, and not about, like using them separately, but that integration, or in that being in that balance, or harmony. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, for me, it's like the integrity of the four eyes.
Mm.
So in the body, it's our instinct. In our heart, it's our intuition. In our mind, it's the insight. And in our soul, it's inspiration. And as we allow ourselves to go deeper into this, and this is the foundation. I have a foundation practice, the wild wisdom, which is all about honoring our wild body, heart, mind, and soul.
Mm.
And when we do that, then we can really allow ourselves to be in the fullest of relationship. It's like everything opens up.
Yeah.
And for me, this is at the center, this is at the heart of delightful dating. We come into a state of alignment and
Mm.
integrity, and we're clear. We're clear about who we are, the
Mm.
relationship that we want, the um the life that we want to lead and how we want to show up. And when we're in that place, like life is like, oh, this is what you want. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Here it is. Yeah.
Yeah, here it is. And it might not look how we think it should look, but when we're in it, we're like, oh, it's this. Lovely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how when you are in alignment, that harmony, then you become in resonance with people who are aligned with more harmony, right? And yeah, it might not look like we had imagined, or going back to the list of criteria you mentioned before, right? But it's like, but this feels much better.
This is
Maybe,
better than I thought it ever could be. What?
yeah, maybe this is much better than the list. So that is beautiful. Thank you so much, Monica. So to wrap up, and thank you so much for all your wisdom, your wonderful insights. I'm sure that people are taking away a lot from these episodes, from this episode. But if you had like one message, like something that you would like our listeners to take from this episode, what would that be?
The most powerful thing that you can do is love you, is completely open up to the fullness of who you are and how you want to be in the world. And then you can approach dating, relationships with our family, relationships at work from a place of integrity and wholeness. And this is how you open up to love.
That is absolutely beautiful. That is brilliant. And I would just like to add, and going back to a word you used before, which was choice. The choice to love yourself and to be in that wholeness and alignment. The choice is ours. It's not for anyone to come and do that for us. The choice is ours. Ours to make. That was a wonderful last, yet another one bit of wisdom. So thank you so much for being here, Monica, and sharing your wisdom with us. So I'm sure some of our listeners want to know more about you, about the work you do. I'm sure they want to know more about this whole delightful dating thing. So please share with us where our listeners can find you, your social media, website, and tell us about the quiz.
Yeah. So I would love if you want to connect with me on any of the social channels. I'm going to put a link tree that has whatever your social preference is, whether that's Insta or Facebook or LinkedIn. The quiz is the first place to start. It's Are you ready to date? Am I ready to date? Is the quiz, right? And essentially, it's Are you ready to date yourself? Really?
Yeah.
So you can take that if you're coupled or not, right? So if you're single, yes, it makes absolute sense. But also if you're in a relationship, think, okay, is there something I need to do to make this relationship better, right? So you can still do that. And I'm also beta testing my new app, the Delightful Dating app. There's a link to that. And if anyone wants to be part of my beta test, DM me and I will share the details with you.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much. And I love what you said about this doesn't, we've been focusing a lot on, actively dating and finding love again, but a lot of things that we have shared and your quiz, like you said, applies as well if you're in a relationship, because, like relationships can be triggering. There is always something to improve, and they always, I think they're a great way to learn, because they show back at you, your stuff, and you're like, oh. So I'm sure that even if our listeners who are in a relationship will also benefit, from doing that bit of self discovery
reflection
process. So amazing.
And you have to date if you're in a relationship. Just saying, right? Do not give up on the dating if you're in relationship. As I said, when I was in that long-term relationship, one of the reasons why it lasted so long was because we were continually evolving and evolving together until the point when
Yeah.
it was complete. And there's a lot of good learning that I got from that and a lot of wonderful experiences. So I would encourage you to, whether you're growing a new relationship or opening up to that, or are in a relationship and a little bit estranged, whatever it is, think how can I delightfully date? How can I bring delightful dating into this in terms of my
Yeah.
communication, my connection, my love?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So it's not only for dating when you don't have a partner, but yeah, that process, that's wonderful. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Monica, for being our first ever guest.
You're
It's
welcome. Thank you so much for having me, Veronica. Thank you, listeners, for listening. I look forward to connecting with you on social and hearing from you. You join the community, the Delightful Dating Love Hub, and it's so much fun. It's really like I do my lives and my teaching from there, and it'd be brilliant to have you along.
yeah, I know you will be in good hands. So thank you everyone for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please subscribe, give it a good review, share it with your loved ones. We are on the main podcast platforms, but also on YouTube now for people who prefer to watch the video. The last few episodes have been video episodes. And yeah, we'll share all the links in the show notes. And let us know if you like this episode, if you would like to know more about these topics, suggestions for future episodes, like I always say. And in the meantime, take care. Sending much love and light to you all. Bye bye.